So I am working on an MPLS configuration right now, or a lab right now, and I forgot the order of operations of how to get this MPLS up and running. So I figured I'd do a quick video on the configuration steps for getting MPLS up and running between a couple of PE routers and a P router. So first you start off with getting your IGP set up between the routers, whether it's OSPF or whatnot. OSPF tends to be a little bit easier because when you go and do your MPLS config, you can actually have it auto-configure the rest of the interface, or all of the interfaces that are running OSPF automatically. After you get that going, configure MPLS with whatever parameters that you would looking for. So whether you want to force a certain router ID, if you want to use passwords, or any specific label ranges on the routers, just so you can more easily tell where a label is getting applied from. Next, you'll then want to configure your VRF instances, assign a route distinguisher and route targets for both import and export. They can be the same, depends on how complicated you want to get. Next, you'll want to apply those VRFs to an interface. After you apply the VRF to an interface, you'll need to reapply the IP address back onto that interface. So a good practice is to actually check what that IP address is before you put the VRF on there. And if you forget to do it, you could always look at the startup config. After you do that, configure your BGP peering between your PE and P routers. One of the things that you can do to make this a little bit easier is, before you actually set up any of the neighbor peering relationships, is to actually disable the default of IPv4 unicast address family, and that way nothing gets activated by default. After you put in your neighbor statements and with the for where everything is going to go, you'll then need to create a VPN v4 address family. And that's where you can use your iBGP rules for full mesh or route reflectors, whatever it may be, and activate the neighbors. And then on the PE routers, you'll need to create an additional address family for each of the VRFs that are on there. And in those address families, you'll want to redistribute your routes from the VRFs into BGP. After that, you'll want to test your connectivity. And you should be able to ping back and forth within the VRF, so make sure that when you do your ping, you do the ping VRF name, and then the address. And also note that after you disable your the default address family of IPv4 unicast, notice that your show commands for BGP also change. There's no longer, you can't check everything with show IP BGP. You actually need to check everything with a show BGP all, or show BGP VRF, or anything along those lines, to be able to look at where everything is at. So that's a quick video on MPLS configuration steps.